having kids is irresponsible and unnecessary. Now, why is it irresponsible? Because you're forcing somebody into this life without their consent, into this crazy world full of risks and gambles. You're gambling with their safety basically, and you might not think that, especially if you're like a strong person physically, but are you going to be with your kid all of their life to protect them? No, you're not. And you're probably overestimating your ability to protect them. What if you was jumped by people with knives? I mean, that happens in the UK. There's videos of that on YouTube. I saw this video of this man and his son. They were in a car crash, right? Or not a car crash, but this gang crashed into them in this car. And then they had like these swords and they came out and they chased after them. The son got away, but the father died. Literally, he was face to face with this guy with this machete. It happened in the UK where I live, not in my city, but in a place called, I think, Nottingham. I mean, I'm in London, which is pretty bad anyways. But this really happened. It's on YouTube. You can search it, like knife attack or machete attack or sword attack, like in front of people. Exactly, that's the thing as well. It happened in front of people, like people in cars. Obviously, they were too scared to do anything. And where's the police? They're not there. So you really can't defend your child in this world from a lot of things. You can from some things, like from bullies or even muggers, maybe, if they're not too dangerous. But when people say they can defend their children, they're really overestimating their ability, especially if they don't even live in the US, so they don't even have access to guns or firearms to protect themselves. If they're in the UK, what the fuck are you gonna do? You can't carry a machete around with you, unfortunately. You're fucked, basically. And you just brought someone else into this world that could be fucked as well. So it's very irresponsible to have kids, because you're forcing them into this crazy world full of a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of violent people, or people that will verbally or mentally abuse you. Not everybody, but there's a lot of mean, nasty pieces of work in this world. That's what this world spawns, And how do you think they got here? They were all born here, They were all born here by their parents. So it's just irresponsible. But not only is having kids irresponsible, it's also unnecessary. It's totally unnecessary because no one asked to be born. No one needed to be here because there's nobody there. When you create someone, you create them out of nothing. I know, like, there's a saying like energy is can't be destroyed. It's transferred from something to something else. But I don't know if that's true, because when you're creating somebody, they don't exist. There's nothing there. There's no consciousness, no thoughts, no interest in coming into existence. There's no pain, no suffering, no pleasure, no satisfaction. There's nothing there. Nothing. They don't exist. So you're literally taking them out of nothing and you're making them into this human being, and it could go terribly wrong, irresponsibly, but it's also unnecessary. There's no need to come into existence. That's why it's so obvious that having kids is childish, at least reproducing kids. Fostering kids and taking care of orphans, that's not selfish one bit, because they already exist and they're not even your own offspring. But your own offspring, that's selfish because they didn't exist at all and you can't get their consent to take care of you. I mean, you can't get their consent to take care of them and force them into this world. That's why it's so obvious that it's selfish, because it's a one-sided decision. Exactly. Having kids is a one-sided decision. No one can ask to be born into this world where we're just forced here against our will. And most people don't realize that, and a lot of people like their lives. That's fine. But some people like me do realize that and are deeply resentful of that. And there's nothing we can do now. We're here. It's not like we can just take ourselves out of this life. It's not easy to just end it. Euthanasia isn't available everywhere. In fact, in most places it's not available. So we're literally trapped in this life that we never asked for, the victims of a one-sided decision by our parents to force us here, irresponsibly and totally unnecessarily. Your parents might have taken care of you financially and like shelter and food and all that shit, but it was still totally unnecessary for you to be here in the first place. So basically, use your parents for the money they got, and you don't owe them for anything. I mean, seriously, you don't owe them for anything. They owe you everything. So give me that money. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, it is a one-sided decision to have kids. But when you foster or adopt an orphan, that's a two-sided decision. I'm pretty sure like the foster kid, they get to choose like from hopefully at least a couple people that they're deciding on who they want to be taking care of, right? They get to choose who they want to take care of, who they want to take care of them. I mean, and who they want to live with and grow with and be in the neighborhood with, whose place do they want to live at. Hopefully they get that decision between at least a couple people or several. So that's a two-sided decision. Even though their parents forced them here irresponsibly, and now they're in a bad position of being a foster child or an orphan, and they need to be adopted. That was bad. But when someone is choosing to adopt them, it shows that that person that's choosing to adopt them and be their foster parent is a very selfless person, and they take consent seriously. It's not always true though, because some people who adopt kids, they also have their own kids. That's true. But a lot of people who adopt kids, I think they only adopt kids and they don't birth kids. They don't reproduce them selfishly, but on their own volition, without having the ability to get consent from somebody else to do that. So yeah. So yeah, that's in a nutshell why having kids is irresponsible and totally unnecessary. And one final point, it does suck that, people don't think about it in that way of like, you can't get a child's consent to come into this world. People don't think that way because no one says that. No one says those words in a sentence like that, literally. Like, you can't get consent to be born into this world. And people will understand that because that's true. You can't argue with that. There's absolutely no consent to be born into this world. That's a fact, It's a fact, like Earth is the third planet from the sun or some shit like that. But it's just that people don't even think about that because no one told that to them in their entire lives. They just go through their lives brainlessly and thoughtlessly, having a party time, and then, oops, here's a kid. Oops, I did it again. They don't put those words in a sentence, like I said. You did not have consent to be born into this world. And a lot of people just assume that because they like their life, that their child's going to automatically like life as well. But that's just not true, man. Look at all the people that kill themselves every year over suicide, especially young people, The younger, the scarier and the more tragic. So, yeah, it's just having kids is a no-go. That is why having kids is irresponsible and unnecessary. Peace.